Good morning, everyone, and welcome back for our third Morning Mind session of Brain Awareness Week 2021. So far, we have talked about how our brain sends messages to and receives messages from the rest of our body. And it does so using a very special type of cell called a neuron. We have approximately 100 billion neurons in our brain, and just like a bunch of Legos make up a house, a bunch of neurons make up our nervous system. But today we're actually going to switch gears a little bit and we're going to talk about our sensory systems. In particular, our sense of taste and our sense of smell.
So how do we smell freshly baked cookies or a really nice bouquet of flowers? Well, we smell using our nose. Odors, which is another word for smells, float around in the air and get picked up with what we breathe in the air. Inside our nose, we have these devices called receptors that catch the odors or the smells that are floating around in the air. You can think of receptors as baseball mitts. Again, just like when a baseball flies at you and you want to catch the baseball in the air, our nose is catching with its receptors the odors that are in the air and holding onto it. Once the catch is made, a receptor sends a signal or a neural message with the information about the odor from your nose to your brain through a chain of neurons. And in particular, these neurons deliver this message to the temporal and frontal cortices. From there, the brain can interpret the message and consider things like, does this smell good? Have I smelt this before? Does it remind me of something?
Our sense of smell is very important because it helps us decide what to approach, like a freshly baked pie, and what to avoid, like a fire. And our sense of smell is uniquely connected to regions of our brain that are important for ensuring our survival. So if there's something dangerous in the environment, like a fire, our olfactory receptors will send a message really quickly to these regions of the brain so that we can initiate an escape response. And some species are better at smelling than others. Humans, we rely a lot on our visual system to see, but other species like dogs, rats, and mice rely more strongly on their sense of smell to guide them. So they have more receptors in their nose so they can sense a wider variety of smells. And this is especially the case for nocturnal animals who operate mostly at night when visual conditions are poor.
Now, how do we taste things? We taste using our tongue. And if you stick out your tongue and look in the mirror, you should be able to see these little bumps. These bumps are called papillae, and they help us taste. Overall, we have about 2,000 to 4,000 taste buds on our tongue. Inside these taste buds, we have receptors. These receptors have a little bit different of a job than the ones that catch the odor that we were just talking about, but their job is pretty much the same. What they do is that they sense what we're eating and send messages to our brain through a long chain of neurons from whatever is on our tongue at the moment.
Our taste buds can detect 5 different types of taste. We have our sweet foods, like our cakes and our candies, our salty foods, like our chips and our pretzels, our bitter foods, like our coffee and broccoli, our sour foods, like a lemon, and our savory foods, like a grilled steak. And everybody's taste buds are a little different, which is why some people prefer sweet snacks and some people prefer salty snacks. And our taste buds actually change as we age. So if you liked a certain food when you were younger but don't anymore, that's very much possible, or vice versa.
Even though we can only sense 5 different types of taste, we can tell the difference between hundreds of different flavors of foods. How is this possible? Well, this is because flavor is a combination of what we're tasting with our tongues, but also with what we're smelling with our nose. This is why when you're sick and have a flu and a stuffy nose, and you can't smell, you have trouble tasting what you're eating. It can end up tasting very, very bland. Or alternatively, if you don't like what you're about to eat, like medicine or something like that, you can plug your nose and you won't be able to taste it as well.
Now that we know about our sense of smell and our sense of taste, it is time for an activity. And for today's activity, we are going to do an experiment. An experiment is when you come up with a question and a hypothesis or a prediction about what's going to happen. And then you test that question to see if you can figure out an answer and support it with evidence. For today's activity, we are going to test the question of, do our sense of smell and our sense of taste work together to give us an idea of flavor? And though we might already know the answer, let's see if we can learn more about this firsthand. So take out your experiment bags and grab the jelly beans. If you don't have a bag, just grab any type of candy that has different flavors. Jelly beans, Skittles, Starbursts will all work. All right, let's get to it.
As we mentioned, flavor is a combination of what we were both smelling and tasting. So now we're going to put that to the test and see how each of these senses contribute to our sense of flavor.
So we want you to take out your jelly beans from your bag and grab a family member and see if they can help you out. So what we want you to do is have one person close their eyes and plug their nose and put their hand out for the other person to put a jelly bean in.
Okay. So the person that receives the jelly bean is going to start chewing the jelly bean with their nose plugged. Can you guess the flavor of this jelly bean? I bet it tastes a little bit sweet, but you can't make out the actual flavor. So now while you're still chewing, unplug your nose, take a breath in. Now can you guess the flavor?
Definitely lemon.
She's right, wow.
So when my nose was plugged, I could taste that the jelly bean was sweet, but I couldn't really tell the flavor. When I unplugged my nose and was able to smell, the smell and the taste worked together to really give me an idea that it was lemon.
Our experiment helped us show that our nose and our mouth work together to help us taste flavor. Now you can do this again with another jelly bean or have your friend do it. But that's it for today. Join us tomorrow for our next Morning Minds lesson.